Alabama survived South Carolina 27-25. They're 5-1 on the year. Alabama led this game 14-0, and then it got really close, 19 straight from South Carolina. I have a couple of points I want to make off of this, but just your overall thought on that Alabama win over South Carolina from you to start us off.
I thought there was a tremendous amount of situational awareness that was lacking from Alabama throughout the course of this game. The last 5 or 6 minutes or so of the second quarter were inexplicable, sloppy, dangerous when it comes to the types of plays that you're making and then what they led to. I don't understand right now why Jalen Milroe seems to have this penchant for holding on to the football and especially against a team like that, whose two best players are along the defensive front in Kennard and Stewart. There just doesn't seem to be this urgency of dominance from this football team. And then you work yourself into the second half. And listen, I understand the 3rd and 10, and I know that it's difficult to be running wide open and catch a pass and then tell yourself to fall down.
Yep.
Right. Which is exactly what should have happened and what should have been told to anybody in that huddle. Listen, if we get the first down here, get on the ground. They have no timeouts left. It's 1:55. You got to have some awareness of the game, what the opponents got left in the tank, and by scoring there, okay, while the crowd was roaring and it looked and felt great for the moment, it created opportunities for South Carolina and almost cost Alabama the game.
Yeah. And that is coaching. That's coaching. At some point in practices or in that huddle or both, you've coached that up. I am a elderly old man now. I'm in the 4th quarter of my life now, and I am screaming, fall down, fall down, fall down. I've never played college football a day in my life, but I was aware enough in that situation. I got laughed at. I won't name names. I got laughed at in our group chat when I said, you got to fall down there because they on the other sideline, listen, we're trying to stop them from getting a first down. But if they get the first down, don't tackle. Don't tackle because you got to let them score, because our only chance of winning at that point is letting them score.
The fact that South Carolina had a bust on that play should have helped them.
Yep. That's right.
I mean, that should have played, if you're counting on the other team, right? It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Because South Carolina defensively was selling out to stop the first down, right? So that was their chance. So you beat me over the top. I gambled on this. I lost the gamble, but we're going to let you score now. Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Okay, let's go back to right before the half. This was the first thing I wanted to bring up with you. Me personally, I'll start off. I loved Kalen DeBoer's aggressiveness right before the half at Wisconsin. We talked about it here on Monday Morning Live, that Nick Saban would have handed off, and we'd have gone to the locker room with whatever the score was up there in Madison that day. And we came on here and I raved about, man, that Kalen DeBoer, 2 passes, touchdown, that's aggressive. Okay, so here you are right before the half. They've scored. It's 14-7, and this is the other side of the sword here because you get that penalty that backs you up now half the distance to the goal line, and instead of running and going to the locker room 14-7, you still sort of controlling the game, you decide to pass, and they make Jalen make that bad decision. There's a safety. You kick it off. Boom, there's a field goal. And in 1 minute and 38 seconds, it's gone from 14-0 to 14-12, and it's a different game. What do you think about aggressiveness in that situation?
Again, the situational awareness is lacking. I think when you gave up the 7 and you're close to getting into the locker room and you've got the ball, I get it if you're at the 50-yard line or you're at the -40 or what have you. But in that situation, I think you got to head into the locker room and regroup and not provide more potential momentum for the other team, because that's all that did was take the air out of the stadium, put momentum on South Carolina's sideline, And then you go into the locker room, and Alabama, instead of feeling good about where they are, you've just given that all and gift wrapped it to South Carolina, and now you're scrambling a little bit in the locker room. And so again, I put some of it on Jalen Milroe too for his poor handling of how he managed that play and holding on to the football the way he did, and then the moving it, basically moving into a forced error is what he did there.
Here's the quote from Shane Beamer postgame. And I won't give you any opinion from me. I want your reaction to the quote. Quote, the way Alabama plays defense, I told our receivers we were going to have opportunities in this game. And he's talking about the meeting the night before at the hotel before he goes into the game on Saturday. Mm-hmm. The way Alabama plays defense, our receivers were going to have opportunities. Your thoughts?
My thoughts were that with what Alabama's playing with on the back end in terms of youth and inexperience, in that particular game, I didn't think there was a scheme problem. I thought there was an approach problem, because every time they came after South Carolina, good things happened. When they didn't come after South Carolina, bad things happened. And you exposed the back end a little bit. I just feel like they need to be a pressure defense 70% of the time ish and come after people. And you know what? If somebody gets them and they catch a one-on-one and the quarterback's good enough and experienced enough to identify it and get the ball out of his hand before he gets pressured and gets rushed, by all means, you got us. But I don't think their mentality in the zone game or the four-man rush game is good enough. We've become accustomed to seeing Alabama being able to control the line of scrimmage with 4 pass rushers.
Right.
5 at a maximum. I don't think that's who they are right now. And so for me, when Shane Beamer talks about those opportunities, I don't know if he thought that they'd be able to handle pressure and be able to win one-on-ones downfield and hold up front, because they weren't able to do that. Or if he meant, hey, listen, if they don't come after us, we're going to be able to take advantage of their youth on the back end. I just didn't like the approach. It was like every time they walked up and they got near the line of scrimmage and they decided to bring pressure, simulated pressures of not knowing who's coming, where they're coming from, which guy's coming, that was when they had success. I just think that their change-ups exposed them in a negative way.
You watch the tape, right? And you go back, you look at the high 22 a lot, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's all we watch.
So Craig writes in, he goes, man defense gives the other team opportunities, man defense. Now, is Alabama, they used to play, I mean, Nick Saban, Kirby Smart, Jeremy Pruitt, they'd die on the man hill. Is Alabama playing as much man as they did under those guys, or are they playing some zone mixed in? What are they doing mostly in this defense?
I wouldn't know what the percentages are, but generally from a pressure perspective, you're going to be in one or two things. You're going to be in what we'd call a fire zone, which would be a zone blitz, where you are bringing pressure, but you may be zoned to one side, you maybe man to the other, you may be zoned across the board. Or if you're going to sell out and you're going to bring 5 or more, you're either going to be in cover 1 or you're going to be in cover 0, meaning you're a single high safety and everybody's matched up with a free safety to help, or you're in 0 across the board. There's nobody on the back end. And generally, you're going to be very cautious being in that if the quarterback's a runner, which in South Carolina's case, you've got to be very, very cautious doing that, because when you're in 0, you have nobody to account for the quarterback. So I think they're in quite a bit of man from a pressure perspective. And I actually think, given the inexperience, and they're talented, but they're young. And I think sometimes asking young players to play in man coverage is better if you can get home, because you're not asking those kids to think. You're playing cat coverage. You got that cat, you got that cat, you got that cat. And your alignment, your technique's one thing, but you're not asking them to pass off targets. You're not asking them to have to decipher things. And that can be, I think, better for younger players. And I think that's probably why they need to be pressuring more.